and we were treated to the ground and air, reverberating the power of that first stage through our bodies. The crackling of the engines and the solid rocket motors was so distinct and even louder than when we launched space shuttles from that very same launch pad.
Confirmation that the solid rocket boosters have separated.
And then hearing the collective gasp of the crowd when we finally heard MECO, main engine cutoff.
The flight dynamics officer reports that we have a nominal main engine cutoff.
And everyone could finally breathe again. The first stage had done its job. That's a moment we will never forget.
Performance nominal. Copy nominal. Booster, how's the engine look?
Looking good, flight.
Okay, Fido, straight and narrow.
The technical perfection of this launch was equally as staggering. Artemis 1 achieved orbital insertion with an accuracy of 99.974%. That's a near perfect velocity bullseye. And a level of precision never flown before on a first flight.
The groundbreaking performances of this mission were highlighted further when the ICPS, or second stage, powered Orion through the perigee raise maneuver, followed by the translunar injection, or TLI burn. They put Artemis 1 spacecraft on a near-perfect trajectory to the moon.
Flight control, ICPS is an attitude control and maneuvering to solenoid.
Copy, good news.
The views of our blue marble in the blackness of space, now capturing the imagination of a new generation, the Artemis generation. The untapped scientific and resource potential of the moon is incredible. The lunar environment will help us better understand the origins of our solar system, to prove the in situ resource utilization and technology demonstrations required to reach even further into our solar system. But none of that is possible without first successfully reaching the moon with a human-rated spacecraft.
After TLI, teams used Orion to reach a never-before-attempted, highly stable, but also fuel-efficient orbit around the moon, the Distant Retrograde Orbit, or DRO.
So we're all set for OpNav coming up here in about 20 minutes. Correct. Okay, thanks.
Flying by on the entry to the DRO put Orion within a mere 80 nautical miles of the lunar surface. That was close. And this path used the moon's gravity to slingshot Orion out to a new record for a human-rated spacecraft's distance from our home planet of Earth, nearly 270,000 miles away.
And it was in those harsh environments that Artemis 1 truly shined, increasing our understanding of how to confidently operate in deep space. On Flight 13, we canceled orbital maintenance burn because it was simply necessary. Flight Day 20 ignited the main engine once again and began the long journey back to Earth. From this view, Orion is 1,277 miles above the lunar surface following its return-powered flyby burn, which sent it around the backside of the moon. Orion now has its sights set on home.
Artemis 1 set out to fulfill requirements, but the highest priority for this mission was to demonstrate the performance of Orion's heat shield at lunar return velocities. So during re-entry, the largest heat shield of its kind ever made by humans had to prove that it could protect crews from temperatures that exceed 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's nearly half the temperature of the surface of the sun.
Orion hurtled towards the Earth at 24,500 miles per hour, Mach 32, and initiated the first ever skip re-entry. This is the first time that humankind has skipped a spacecraft off the Earth's atmosphere.
For those of us who have flown shuttle, Soyuz or Dragon, coming back from the International Space Station, we wear these Mach 25 patches. This is the return velocity from low Earth orbit. But Mach 32, that lunar return velocity, that's a whole order of magnitude more energy to dissipate. So there we were. Orion had just traveled nearly 1.4 million miles, and it's these last few miles that'll make or break the mission.
We are now in the entry phase.
The team stood silent. Mission control room was deathly quiet as Orion entered the blackout period. And it was tense. We had no telemetry, we had no comms, we had no visual. All we could do was simply wait.
Standing by for a reacquisition of signal. This is the moment of truth for Orion.
And then suddenly there it is.
And there is a view of Orion.
I mean, Orion has survived the flaming hot re-entry. Mission control consoles all come alive with data again. We're on glide slope. The drogue's deployed, but again, we're at the point where we're all holding our breath. And there they were. The 3 big, beautiful main parachutes fully deployed. And we watch Orion gently settle into the Pacific Ocean.
Splashdown. Orion, back on Earth.
We are speechless. We are ecstatic. I mean, we did it. At that moment, we could say, without hesitation or reservation, the Artemis generation, our generation, has had its first flight. We are going to the moon.
Statistics show that even through today, newly developed rockets have a failure rate of 50%. And generally, there is no rocket that performs perfectly on the first flight. And yet, SLS performed magnificently. This vehicle was described by space experts as symmetry in motion. There were 140 planned test objectives in the timeline. Artemis 1 achieved each and every one with such precision that the teams expanded the envelope with 21 additional test objectives. Because of the Artemis 1 mission, we retired risks that could have delayed or unraveled the ambitions of this generation, our generation, to return to the moon.
Because of the Artemis 1 mission, we have demonstrated our ability to go farther and faster than ever before, opening the door to explore Mars and other destinations throughout the solar system. By nearly every single metric, Artemis 1 was a resounding success.
Just as Orville and Wilbur Wright were the first to achieve human flight, 50 years from now, we will look back and point to how our efforts to venture out into deep space began here. Our voyage out into the solar system started with this first flight.
And yet, this is but a prelude to what comes next.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Artemis 2 crew.
Human beings will fly around the moon next on Artemis 2, simply because of the demonstrated amazing success of this first flight.
Thank you to the NASA workforce. Thank you to our industry partners, everyone in Europe that's working for this.
We need to celebrate this moment in human history. It is the next step on the journey that gets humanity to Mars.
America has made a very deliberate choice over decades to curate a global team, and we are going to the moon together.
When I think about this mission, it's a relay race with international partners. It's also so awesome in and of itself. So, am I excited? Absolutely.
I want everybody to say it. 1, 2, 3.
You and I, we are all truly part of the Artemis generation.
The little red light is on. All right.
You know, most kids, you start thinking at an early age, as soon as you look in the sky at night and you see stars, and you think, what would it be like to be up there?
No matter where we grow up, everybody looks up at the sky and says, what else is out there?
I started saying I wanted to be an astronaut when I was 5 years old, according to my mom.
It was the beginning of our astronauts making their way up to the moon. I remember coming back like, what is this? You know, how do I go do this? This looks like fun.
I looked at what NASA was doing. I was like, I want to be an astronaut. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of what happened.
I got into the Navy test pilot school and then started to apply to NASA.
There's like 6,000 people that applied for, 15 slots. And I interviewed 4 times over 12 years.
I applied multiple times over 13 years and interviewed 5 times before I was selected.
Well, I did submit 7 applications along the way, but I got rejected by NASA 7 times, but the 8th time.
And the 4th time, I got a phone call that said, if you're still interested in being an astronaut, we'd like you to come to Houston.
Finally, it's launch day.
Launching to space, of course, was a momentous experience.
You see that this rocket is a living, breathing beast. The thing is alive, and it wants to go.
It suddenly feels like it's real.
First thing, you're strapped into the space shuttle on the launch pad,
And I can say sitting in the rocket, getting ready for launch, you're anxious and you're excited.
And waiting for countdown, focusing on doing your checklist, focusing on your procedure.
At the moment of launch, you're quite prepared.
It lights off and you feel the rumble, and then you start to move, and that constant smooth acceleration pulling you back in the seat.
And you feel like you're just in a car wreck because the solid rocket boosters light off and they give you a kick in the backside like you were just rear-ended at a stop sign, literally.
There's just nothing subtle or nice about it.
There's the vibration, the pressure, the acceleration, the pressure in your seat.
I distinctly remember the point when I stopped and thought, I did it. I'm here. My goal was to be an astronaut, and now I'm in space.
As a kid, you maybe fantasize about spreading your arms and flying among the clouds and that kind of stuff. That's what we're doing. Floating is very cool.
It's fun to watch new astronauts show up in space too, because they creep around. We would joke like space mice, very timid, very controlled.
Being weightless the first few days is horrible. I mean, it's really neat to see something floating in front of you. It's really horrible to feel like you're going to throw up all the time. And then as you start to get into it, you start to realize that the human's an incredibly adaptive machine, and weightlessness is really, really well suited for us.
Pretty soon you're going into a hatchway and you come through and you kind of push off on both sides and you go zipping down the middle and you're turning right at the end. So you reach out, grab a handrail, and
But it also brings out your inner 5-year-old, or I say that it is the source of all stupid astronaut tricks.
It's as fun as you think it would be, only better. I think I told my wife that I thought it was a burrito of awesomeness smothered in awesome sauce, because I don't have a very big vocabulary, so I tried to use the biggest, most impactful words I could.
Everybody's a superhero. You're not floating, you're flying.
So the International Space Station, being only 250 miles above Earth, we call it the kind of the proving ground for a lot of science. It is a national orbiting laboratory for the United States, and we do have hundreds of science experiments going on at any time.
We're doing this amazing science up there. It is also absolutely the most wonderful observatory. And certainly for an Earth-facing observatory, the cupola module, this big bay window, that we have facing Earth, is the place to be.
I got visited by 3 space shuttles. Several of the crew members never looked outside the cupola before. I would bring them one at a time to the cupola, tell them to close their eyes, open up all the windows, the shutters on the windows, and then tell them to open up their eyes.
Cerebrally, I knew that this was going to be a life-changing experience. I knew that the view was going to be amazing.
And I will never forget that sight. The thin blue line of the atmosphere, the curve of the horizon, and that's when it became real. Really, at a gut level, I'm actually in space. We are on orbit. This is not a sim.
This is my eyes looking through glass at Earth from space. It was almost overwhelming.
And so I think it's kind of overload for your brain and processing all of that at once because it just isn't used to that.
It's really hard to describe something like that because it's not just cerebral, it's emotional, it's kind of all encompassing. My heart was racing, you couldn't wipe the smile off of my face. It was really amazing. I just was, feeling something as I was staring at this view of the whole thing, and it moved me to tears unknowingly. So.
In that instant, when you're overwhelmed with that vista, when your eyes see nothing but the beauty of the Earth, every single crew member that I brought in there for that exposure cried. It is heart-stopping. It is soul-pounding. It is breathtaking.
I mean, it was ridiculous. I'd never imagined in my entire life getting to see something that beautiful. It was so foreign for the human mind to look at that, to see the Earth highlighted that way.
Well, I don't think anything prepares you for how crystal clear it is. I knew the colors, but they just seemed different to me. They seemed more vibrant, more translucent.
I've never seen those colors here on Earth. These pearlescent yellows and peaches that form when you're looking at a body of water with the sun angle. It's just amazing.
I just took a pencil and I drew like 15 curved lines, and I just wrote light blue, darker blue, pink, purple, dark purple, all the way down to the surface of the Earth at sunset, because the scale of looking at a sun refracting through the atmosphere, it blew me away, okay? And no picture captures that. There's no high enough dynamic range of a photo to capture what the human can see.
How in the world am I going to describe this? There's no words. There's no picture I could take to do it justice. There's no watercolors that I could put on paper to come close to the vividness, the ever-changing picture that I see staring at this planet.
And I think that's the challenge of really trying to express just what ran through my mind when I'd look out there, because my mind would just race.
It's like a work of art out the window there, and it surprises you every time you look at it. One of the most impressive things was watching thunderstorms, storm activity moving around the planet.
You can see its path propagating around, and you have these big flashes all over the place.
This one storm covering all the U.S. and lightning flashing off all over, nonstop.
It's like watching neurons firing in a brain. These tentacles of light that are just connecting and traveling. Yeah, it might be starting over Florida, but it's like moving across the ocean to Africa as far as you can see. And that was, I remember floating there just thinking about, oh my gosh, everything is connected.
We got to see some interesting things up there. You know, one was Hurricane Dorian, a Category 5 hurricane with such a well-formed eye. When you look down at it, flying over in the station, it doesn't even look like it's moving, but you know the power that's at the center of that storm and what havoc that storm is wreaking on everybody on the ground.
You look at it in terror, really, because you know all the people that are endangered underneath, but just the immensity of power that Mother Nature brings.
A hurricane, a thunderstorm, everywhere you look, there is the environment doing something crazy. So we're coming up over Brazil, about to go across into the Atlantic Ocean, and looking out on the horizon, I saw looked kind of brown. I'd never seen that really from the space station, and I instantly, what did I think? Human interaction pollution, for sure. It's just awful looking, it's terrible. But as we went over the Atlantic, it kind of got thicker and thicker and thicker. It was a sandstorm in the Sahara Desert, blowing this huge plume of sand up into the atmosphere, crossing the Atlantic Ocean and coming down in Brazil. I mean, that is crazy. If that doesn't change the way you think about the planet, absolutely nothing will.
What struck me was when we looked at natural disasters, you see a flood, and you really can't pick out where they are on Earth. But when you see it from space, you realize that the effects of these natural disasters really hit everybody equally. And it really gives you this perspective that, first of all, we're all in this together, and that the world is very small.
What has always struck me every time I went there is how beautiful the Earth is, how fragile it looks, how alive it obviously is with the clouds, the water. It's like it's breathing.
When you first look at Earth, you may say, wow, that's a continent. And then you look at it again the next day and you say, wow, there are mountain ranges. And then you look at it again the next day and it's like, oh, I can see synclines and anticlines in the geologic structure.
You could see the Nile River and the Nile Delta so clearly, the Red Sea, and for me that was just amazing to look down. You could see the Jordan River, the Sea of Galilee, the Dead Sea, and I was just like, this is where all this took place.
But the color palette is hard to compare. I mean, all these reds and oranges, and so the dunes all over in Central Africa and in Saudi Arabia, you have these so many different textures.
And you can almost pick out where you are over the Earth because Australia's tans are different than African tans.
Every piece of the Earth has its own tone, if you want. So you become very acquainted with the Earth from a big picture point of view.
And you saw just the beauty of the landscape and the mountains and the deserts, and you start to think of how they were formed. You realize just how special the place we are is, and you feel that connection.
So when you look at the Earth from that vantage point, I know others have said this, you don't see the borders. You don't see political borders, you hardly see geographical borders.
We're so used to looking at maps or globes. In low Earth orbit, you don't see a globe. And from no distance do you see the different colors for countries so that it makes them easy to distinguish.
I was looking for all the little pink and green countries when I was looking at Earth. Where's Uganda? It's supposed to be pink on the atlas.
You don't see those geopolitical boundaries, all of the man-made boundaries that we've imposed upon ourselves as humans. You don't see any of that from space.
It's just you and your team, and you're trying to make an impact on us evolving into something more. You forget about the politics. You forget about daily life that plagues us here on the ground, that colors our perceptions because you're insulated from it.
And you just feel this sense of commonality more, and something that unites us all, and just that we're all human.
Flying over Africa in the daytime with intense sunlight so much of the time, you don't really see much detail. It's so bright. But at night, when it's illuminated by starlight or moonlight, you really see a lot, and it's just fascinating.
And you don't quite see the same texture, but you see mankind's influence on the planet.
You get these beautiful, twinkly city lights.
And they represent human sprawl, which isn't necessarily bad, but it is incredibly beautiful from space.
I love looking at the atmosphere at night when you have that air glow, and sometimes it was a bit green, and then you have the aurora dancing around.
And we were flying into this astonishing aurora, this rippling, pulsing river of green that's down below us, the red that is stretching up to our altitude. It's like, it was just breathtaking.
Auroras, the presence of humans at night, it's obvious with the lights. But it's the death around the Earth that's startling. How this beautiful, shining oasis of life is there naked in the middle of pitch black death, the vacuum of space.
Definitely look up and see the stars like you have never seen them before. I mean, the Milky Way is just stunning.
There's many fades in the cosmos to gaze at our galaxy of Andromeda.
Of course, the lights don't flicker. They're steady because they're not coming through the dust and coming through the atmosphere. And then as you really adjust, you start to sense the very subtle colors that are in the stars. A little bit of reddish, a little bit of bluish, blue-white.
Just all the colors and the light come out, in that depth of space as well.
I could all of a sudden detect depth. Now, I couldn't tell you how much, but it's light years, right? And it's like, whoa, I can somehow tell that star is closer than that star. And that was something that knocked my socks off. And I thought, nobody told me about this.
I don't think I had thought before going up there about how many stars you see, the density of stars.
You see so many stars, it becomes hard to pick out constellations. People ask if there's aliens, and I'm like, of course there are aliens. Look at all those stars. There's gotta be.
It's just so vast and infinite. I don't know what else to say about that.
I remember using the 800 millimeter lens and just really zooming into places. And you still can't see people walking around or anything, but you see impacts of things. And you realize that a lot of times we have to pull way back. You have to pull way back and see the big picture of it.
You realize just how small you are, because you at times struggle to find evidence of human activity down there. You can go over massive swaths of the Earth and not see a trace of any human impact. Or you can go over other swaths and you can see dramatic impact.
Frequently in the summertime, there's a lot of fires in Africa. You see all of those plumes of smoke heading west across the Atlantic.
You fly over South America and you see, widespread deforestation, and you know the impact that has. You can almost get a sense of the balance of, how nature is trying to balance all the inputs and the outputs and have a stable system. And you can see our effect on it.
To me, it started to make me understand that everything is connected. What is happening in the ocean over here can affect what is happening on land over here. It's just all one being, thing, and it's all interconnected.
You can see combat. I mean, we were two countries were at war, and you could very easily see missiles being shot. They just look like little tiny traces of light. You can see all that stuff. So to me, I didn't see one
unified human civilization. You certainly see one unified planet cruising around the sun, and that is a unique perspective.
But during my time on the space station, I had the chance to do a spacewalk, put on a spacesuit, and go outside. And that's a very special experience for any astronaut.
You're inside the space station or the shuttle, and now you put on a suit and go outside. It's like there is an elevation and risk when you do that, but it is a bit thrilling.
Spacewalks always seem to be very busy and task-focused events where I got to do this, and I got to move over here and do this, and
then you just have to not think about where you are. Just concentrate on getting the job done. What's the big picture?
Rarely did you have a minute where you could just say, just take a minute and enjoy the view. But, there were those minutes every once in a while. And the view from outside the spacecraft, with that full panoramic vision through your helmet visor, was just incredible.
It's a very disturbing view, looking down about 240 miles at the Earth going by at 17,000 miles an hour. It's like, oh boy.
I just watched the Earth going by below me, and I only had this, thin visor separating me from a very unsurvivable atmosphere. And my feet were dangling. I remember, not just through my visor, but looking down and you just see feet and then Earth, and you're holding on to the space station. And it was just incredible. Everything looked so large. The colors are even more vibrant, and I think also just mentally, psychologically realizing that, there's
मेरी जान बांध रखी तूने पायल में, हर कदम तेरा करे मुझे घायल है। अरे हम तो मामूली से गाय थे, तुझे देख के ही तो हुए शायर है। ये जो हम पे छाए हुए बादल है, पहले दिखे न कभी थे पूरे सावन में। रजा तेरी रजामंदी में शामिल है, तेरे हुक्म सर आँखों पे कायल है। हाँ तू कह दे अगर उठेगा नहीं तेरे कंधे से सर, सब मेरा सर तेरे इश्क से मैंने कभी देखा नहीं मर्ज। तेरा मुझ पे है कर्ज, चुकाना पड़ेगा जो मुझे 100%। क्या किया ये हशर, तेरी आंखों ने भी छोड़ी ना कोई भी कसर। मेरी जान बांध रखी तूने पायल में, हर कदम तेरा करे मुझे घायल है। अरे हम तो मामूली से गाय थे, तुझे देख के ही तो हुए शायर है। ये जो हम पे छाए हुए बादल है, पहले दिखे ना कभी थे पूरे सावन में। रजा तेरी रजामंदी में शामिल तेरी मायका।
लो भाई, रोसी के बहाने आज मॉर्निंग वॉक भी हो गई।
गुड। अच्छी सेहत सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है।
सिर्फ मेरी ही नहीं, मेरे पोते की सेहत भी।
नेस्ले सेरेलैक पेट भर के तो खिलाती हूँ।
एक बढ़ते बच्चे को इतनी ग़िज़ाइयत की ज़रूरत होती है, इन सब की ग़िज़ाइयत एक साथ खिला सकती हो?
इसके मुट्ठी जितने पेट में ये कैसे आएगा अम्मी?
ऐसे, क्योंकि सेरेलैक में गंदम, चावल और फलों के साथ शामिल है आयरन, विटामिन्स और प्रोबायोटिक्स, जिससे बढ़ते बच्चों को मिले ठोस और सही ग़िज़ाइयत।
अब समझ आया कि बेबी को रोज सेरेलैक भी खिलाना कितना जरूरी है।
समझदार माँ
और दादी का इंतखाब
नेस्ले सेरेलैक, हर प्याले में ग़िज़ाइयत का एतमाद।
फ्रॉम नेस्ले।
From here, possibilities are everywhere. From taking first steps here, to beginning your own wealth journey here. From backing global trade ambitions here, to delivering on that promise here. From representing a team here, to empowering lives here, here, and here. That's why we're here on the ground. Here where you need us, in the world's most dynamic markets. A bank that connects potential to possibilities. So, where will you go from here?
चरणों में प्रभु आपके संसार हमारा है चरणों में प्रभु आपके संसार हमारा है ये साथ मेरे गुरुवर जीने का सहारा है ये साथ मेरे गुरुवर जीने का सहारा है चरणों में प्रभु आपके संसार हमारा है मंद मंद मुस्कान एक तेज अलौकिक है मंद मंद मुस्कान एक तेज अलौकिक है जैसे मेरे सामने महाकाली बैठी है जैसे मेरे सामने महाकाली बैठी है चरणों में प्रभु आपके संसार हमारा
2020 with NASA's Demo 2 mission. It also marks SpaceX's second human spaceflight mission this year, following the NASA Crew 6 launch in March to the International Space Station. The AX-2 crew will be joining Expedition 69 and Dragon Endeavour, all still currently on station. As we count down today's scheduled liftoff,
AX-2 is the second of four missions SpaceX will launch for Axiom Space. And today's launch is the culmination of years of effort by teams at Axiom Space to expand the opportunities of private citizens and sovereign nations around the world so that they can partake in the incredible science, research, and STEAM education-related activities in low Earth orbit. In fact, we just recently announced Axiom Space Access Program, which is designed to enable countries to realize long-term economic and scientific value in microgravity. So if you want to fly to space, or if your organization wants to conduct research and manufacturing efforts in microgravity, we have the teams that can help you develop your program. We believe that the commercial effort and presence in low Earth orbit has a duty to expand research and manufacturing capabilities conducted in space for the benefit of all humankind. And that's a big part of what makes today's mission so exciting. Two members of our crew are citizens of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or KSA. They are Rayana Barnawi, the first ever Saudi female to fly to space, and Ali Al-Karni, a captain in the Royal Saudi Air Force. Together, they are following in the footsteps of Sultan bin Salman Al Said, who flew aboard Space Shuttle Discovery in 1985. But they also represent the first Saudi national astronaut class, which we had the honor of helping select and train in preparation for this moment.
Really exciting stuff. Now, turning our attention to the crew, they are suiting up inside, right behind those doors that you see there. That's SpaceX's Falcon support building.
Displays are configured for crew ingress, and advanced team work is complete, ready for crew arrival, on schedule.
All right, just a call out there from our SpaceX core, letting all teams know on countdown that we're tracking on time. So that's great news to hear.
Great.
So yeah, they are getting suited up right now in preparation for their liftoff from that launch pad right there. That, of course, is the historic Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Once they arrive at the space station, the crew will spend 8 days living and working on board before returning to Earth.
Yes, and over the course of that 10-day journey, the AX-2 crew will conduct a wide range of research, including several experiments that will help us understand more than ever about how our human bodies respond to microgravity. The data they'll collect will be critical to furthering human exploration of space, and along the way will inspire dreamers, thinkers, and explorers to follow in their footsteps.
Every human spaceflight crew is unique, with each astronaut bringing their own background and expertise to the mission. With that, let's introduce you to the AX-2 crew.
अब कोका कोला की 2 लीटर बॉटल सिर्फ 220 रुपए में खाना बनाए मैजिकल कोका कोला के साथ।
The AX-2 mission is commanded by retired NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson. Born and raised in Beaconsfield, Iowa, she was inspired along with the world when we watched the Apollo 11 crew walk on the moon. She has since become the most experienced American astronaut and one of the most decorated. Whitson flew 3 long-duration missions to the ISS and has more cumulative time in space, 665 days, than any U.S. astronaut and more than any woman in the world. She has conducted 10 spacewalks with over 60 hours out in the vacuum of space and has performed hundreds of research experiments on board the ISS. Not only is she the commander for this mission, but Peggy also serves as the director of human spaceflight for Axiom Space.
The pilot for AX-2 is private astronaut John Schaffner. Born in Alaska and raised in Kentucky, Schaffner is a STEAM education advocate, business pioneer, and lifelong space enthusiast. A pilot since the age of 17, John has over 8,500 flight hours holding commercial, instrument, single-engine, and multi-engine ratings in land and sea aircraft, as well as helicopter. He also holds ratings in former military jets and high-performance radial engine aircraft. As an athlete, John has years of competitive experience in water skiing, cycling, whitewater kayaking, hang gliding, skydiving, and base jumping. John trained as the AX-1 backup pilot, and during this mission plans to invest a lot of his time in STEAM education activities aimed at empowering educators and inspiring teachers.
Representing the Saudi Space Commission and serving as a mission specialist, Ali Al-Karni was born in March 1992 in Sabt al-Alaya, Saudi Arabia. Ali is fluent in English as well as his native Arabic. And as an Air Force captain, Ali has 12 years of experience flying on multiple aircraft, primarily on the F-15SA in service to the Royal Saudi Air Force. Ali graduated with a Bachelor of Aerospace Science degree in 2013 from King Faisal Air Academy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Also representing the Saudi Space Commission and serving as a mission specialist, Rayana Barnawi was born in September 1988 in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Rayana has a master's degree in biomedical sciences from Al Faisal University in Riyadh, and also has a bachelor's degree in biomedical sciences from Otago University in Dunedin, New Zealand. If that wasn't enough knowledge, she is fluent in English and Turkish, as well as native Arabic. She has been a research lab technician since 2013 in the Stem Cell and Tissue Reengineering Program at King Faisal Specialist Hospital and Research Center located in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
There you have it, the AX2 crew. This really is an amazing group of people who have spent months preparing for this moment. We are already beyond proud of them and can't wait to see them in space.
At the moment, they should be making their final preparations inside our Falcon support building, and then soon they'll be making their first public appearance, fully suited and ready to fly. They should be walking out of those doors here in just a couple of minutes.
Yes, absolutely. But, you know, as excited as we are for this crew and their launch, there have been entire communities of loved ones, both friends and family, around the world who have been looking forward to this moment for quite some time, actually. So to Peggy, John, Ali, and Rayana, here are a few words from those who love you to help mark this occasion.
Hey, John, just wanted to take and give you a big shout out and tell you how proud we are that you're representing Middlesbrough and all of us on your mission to the International Space Station. We want to thank you for allowing us to be part of your experience and taking us beyond the cradle.
Such a sweet insight into all that support and all those friends and family.
Super touching.
That's great. The entire Axiom Space team and all of our partners truly appreciate and are humbled by the worldwide interest and support for this historic flight today. As the crew wraps up their preparations inside the Falcon support building, let's provide a bit of an overview of the operations for today. It's been a pretty busy morning already for the AX.
2 लीटर की ठंड मिले सिर्फ 200 में और 1.5 लीटर सिर्फ 150 में।
X2 crew. They woke up at about 9 a.m. Eastern, had their first medical checks of the day, and then shared a meal with their quarantine support staff. At 12:20 Eastern, they departed the quarantine facility and flew to Kennedy Space Center for a special moment with family and friends at the tarmac of the KSC launch and landing facility. This event also marked the formal handoff of the crew to SpaceX for today's launch.
Around T-minus 3 hours and 50 minutes, the crew arrived at the suit-up room and began putting their suits on. Right around then, we also had the crew pre-launch briefing, and that's where we share weather and launch details and basically give them their tablets, which they get to bring with them during flight. And all of that brings us to where we currently are, suit up. We are awaiting for them to make their appearance, but yeah, there's been a lot of activity.
Absolutely. And we know at about T-minus 3 hours and 25 minutes, the crew began suiting up, and once that process is complete, they'll